share, recipe share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share. Recipe Share, Recipe Share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Recipe Share, a program on AADL TV, where we take a few minutes to share recipes from our featured category. Today's category is intimidating instructions. I'm Beth, and as usual, I'm joined by Elizabeth and Katie to tell us about their recipes. So Elizabeth, tell us what you made.
Okay, I'm like chuckling at myself for this one because this recipe is in fact quite easy. It was intimidating to me for several reasons. So first of all, it involves flank steak, which I am not a big preparer of red meat, especially when it's going to be eaten. Like I'd make meatballs and stuff with ground meat that you bake or saute and stuff, but when you have to prepare red meat quite like delicately so that it's just the right amount of cooked, I don't do that frequently. So I was intimidated by this. The second reason is this was called to be made completely on a grill top. And I made this in early March. So I made it on the stove. So I immediately couldn't follow the instructions as as planned, but it actually turned out great. So I was super excited. This comes from a cookbook I've referenced before, which is Deb Perelman's Smitten Kitchen Every Day, or Smitten Kitchen Favorites, I think it is, sorry. And love it. And it's for basically steak tacos with corn salad. So first thing you do is you take a red onion and you slice it thinly, slice half of it thinly and put it in a bowl with salt and a bunch of lime juice from a couple limes so that it starts to pickle. And then you're supposed to heat your grill. But you're supposed to heat your grill and grill 3 ears of corn, and then cut the corn off the cob and mix it with more lime juice and queso fresco and some cilantro. And it called for how do you say, tagine, which is a type of spice that has some it's supposed to have it's chili powder, but also has a little bit of lime in it. So I didn't have that, so I just used regular chili powder and went a little extra on the lime juice. So I used frozen corn. I didn't grill it, and I put it in a saute pan with some olive oil, just got it nice and hot, and then added the cilantro, cotija or queso fresco, and the lime juice and the chili powder, and you set that aside. And then you get a 1.5 pound flank steak. And I was researching how to make this on the stovetop. And basically I followed the instructions for a different way to do it than grilling, and it worked out great. So basically I took it out of the fridge and I poked kind of horizontal holes with a knife, just all the way across it on both sides, and then salt and pepper on both sides, and then rubbed butter on both sides. I had a stick of butter sitting out and just rubbed it in. And then you're supposed to sear it for 2 to 3 minutes on each side. And then I cut it open. It was a little rare for me. So I did it for a bit longer, and then you let it rest. And I was so thrilled. I couldn't believe it. It turned out perfectly. I actually think I probably could have done it as is and actually just let it rest for longer, and it would have been okay. So I'm by the time I had my third helping, it had I felt like it was a little overcooked, but it was still really good. So live and learn. But anyway, so then you have your tortillas, and oh, I forgot to mention, you make a little mixture of sour cream and mayo and a little bit of the queso fresco as well. So you smear that on your tortilla, then the steak, then the corn salsa that you've made. You can top with extra cilantro if you want. And it was super good. I loved it. It was awesome. I'm just can't express how proud I am to make red meat well, because I never do this. And it's definitely going to be a staple. And now that I've done it, the whole thing took 15 minutes. So it's definitely going to be something that I keep in the repertoire and that I feel a lot more confident doing now. So Yeah, that's my oh, I have a photo here of the what it looks like on the plate. It looks really nice. Yeah, that was it. It was great.
Well, that's inspiring to me. I also don't cook large pieces of red meat ever, not in my wheelhouse. So really cool to hear that it was easy. And I love steak tacos, and I make tacos all the time, but not steak tacos. So
Right.
that's awesome to have an easy recipe. I'm gonna try it. Can't wait. And I'm glad that you didn't grill the corn either. I always think that's kind of like a racket. I'm like, why? I have this frozen corn.
I agree. And it's like then you have to let it cool, and corn takes a long time to cool, and you're waiting for
Yeah,
it to cut off. I'm like, this is not going to be so much better than like in a pot or in a
that,
pan, you know.
that's how I always feel.
Yeah, I could see in the summer when it's corn season. But I have a question. Did you keep your steak, like you said you poked it,
Yeah.
and then did you cook the whole piece to
Yeah, and then I let it rest and then like thinly
Nice.
sliced for the
Nice.
tacos. That's right. Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to include both recipes for the steak tacos and then the recipe I used for like preparing flank steak on the stove, because that's what like really helped me and told me about the poking and the all that. So, yeah, but I cooked it whole. Yep.
Sounds delish. Really good.
Yeah, it was good. Katie, what was your intimidating instructions?
Okay, so this recipe is from a website called The View from Great Island, and it is for Vidalia onion cornbread. And the website describes this as the cornbread version of upside down cake. It's baked in a cast iron skillet and then flipped upside down to reveal a layer of sweet Vidalia onions. And so for me, like anything that you have to flip, I'm like, okay, no, I'm out. So I was definitely scared, intimidated to flip this over. So I thought, let's try it. The picture was really beautiful on the website. So, and I love cornbread. So I'm like, all right, let's give it a whirl. So what you do is you preheat your oven, and then you add oil to your cast iron skillet, heat that up to medium high, and then you take 1/4-inch slices of Vidalia onion, and Vidalia onions aren't in season right now, so I just used a sweet onion, worked fine. So 1/4-inch slices, and you arrange them on a single layer on your skillet. You try and fill as much of the surface area as possible, and you cook the onions without moving them for about 8 minutes or until they're starting to soften. And I think it's funny because it says until they start to turn golden on the bottom, but you're not supposed to move them. So like, how did you know that? Anyway, I just went for 8 minutes. And then you remove them from the heat and you make your cornbread. So you whisk together your dry ingredients, cornmeal, flour, baking powder. This uses regular salt and onion salt, and it says you can use onion powder if you don't have onion salt, but it just gives it a little bit more onion flavor throughout. And then you add in some cheese. So I love a cheesy cornbread. This calls for cheddar cheese, but it also says you could use whatever cheese you want, like Gruyere. And I was like, I love Gruyere. So, and that sounds really good with onions to me. So that's what I used. And then you whisk together your wet ingredients, eggs, buttermilk, butter, and then you mix everything all together until it's combined, and you pour it into your skillet over top of the onions, and you bake it for 27 minutes or until your toothpick comes out clean, and then you let it cool for 10 minutes. I have a picture of what it looks like when I pulled it out. I was a little concerned because it kind of looks like it's domed. So I was like, is this gonna, like, once I flip it, is it gonna sit flat? But I was like, well, too late. We're gonna flip it. So once it cools, you take a knife and you like a blunt knife and go around the outside, and then you invert it onto your cooling rack. And it says if any onions remain stuck, you just loosen them with a offset spatula and tuck them back. And I did have 2 little pieces of onions that stuck to the top. And you can see that I have a picture here of what it looks like. And I think it's so beautiful. You can see just like a couple onions slightly out of place, but it still looks really lovely. And I was very impressed by it. My husband thought it looked really cool. So it's just like, it's very, very pretty. And then it says to slice it into slice it into wedges, right? So that made the hugest pieces of cornbread. So when I do this again, I will slice it into squares, even though it's in a circle. And also I found that the onion that was directly in the center was getting too many knife cuts through it. So it was kind of like ended up disintegrating or not really holding together very well. So I would like offset that a little bit and not have one directly in the center. But other than that, this was such a cool recipe. I just really enjoyed it. And I think it's intimidating, but it worked. And it's impressive, I think, to look at. So I'll definitely make it again.
I think that's awesome because I actually don't think of onions and cornbread going together. Like I think of a cheesy cornbread, or I think of a jalapeno cornbread, or even a sweet. I mean, I think of sometimes people do sweet cornbreads, but onion is not a flavor I put with that. So I'm impressed, and like that's surprising to me. So it's cool.
Yeah, we like to have cornbread, fairly regular. Like Kurt will just literally whip up a batch real quick.
Yeah.
And but I love that concept with the onions, and just for something different.
Yeah.
And I can still see it going with, chili or whatever. But yeah,
honestly, it still went with honey and butter the way that I normally eat cornbread. It still tasted really good with those flavors. So yeah, it's a little different with the onion, but I thought ultimately it was still really good cornbread.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you would serve it with all the usual things you would typically serve cornbread with. Is that right? Like
I
however
totally think you can. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, well, Beth, tell us about your intimidating instructions.
okay. I chose something from this book called Dictator Lunches. Are you familiar with this? Because like this woman, all right, the dictators are her children. She refers to them as little dictators. And like the takeaway is that this woman, Jenny Mullen, she likes to make her dishes really fun, right? So like she uses googly eyes and Benadryl syringes even to fill raspberries with yogurt. I mean, it is super intense, some of the stuff she makes. But now I got to find the one so what I thought just this book alone was intimidating. Like people actually oh, here's another one. It's cute. Like look at the hard-boiled eggs with the radishes and but the googly eyes that she uses, I tried that with just some strawberries, and like you can't even get the things in there. I mean, it just was a big smushy mess. And so while it's super cute, a lot of the ideas, none of this has anything to do with what I made. But I just want to show you one of her lunches. Oh, she even makes fruit juice gummy worms. Okay, I don't know, little crazy. She's got all these cute things. All right, here's just like she puts them in these metal things. It's just super intense. Okay, whatever. But what I made from here were pecan tassies. Here they are. Angela's pecan tassies. So they're a little tartlet filled with pecan. The reason I was intimidated by it is anytime that it tells me to evenly cover bottoms and sides with a dough in a thing, that intimidates me. So, but it was very good. So it starts with your dough for your little cups is just butter and cream cheese. Like who knew you could make a dough out of that stuff? Well, you can, and it's delicious. So you do that, and then you chill the dough for about an hour until it's firm enough to roll into balls. And then you roll, actually, I think I use my little scooper, rolled in balls, and then you press them into your mini muffin cup, covering the sides and bottoms. And then in a small bowl, whisk together a tablespoon of butter, egg, brown sugar, vanilla, salt, and then stir in 1/3 of a cup of pecans that are chopped finely. Mine actually they weren't fine, but anyway, and I do have a picture here of my gorgeous little things. You spoon the mixture, sprinkle more pecans on it, and then bake it for 20 minutes till the filling is puffed. It's very, very good. I would recommend it.
So the dough, did I hear this correctly? The dough on the sides is cream cheese and butter? That's it? I feel, but it
Eat a half a
together?
cup of butter and cream cheese. So I have my stand mixer, which it recommended, and that was helpful. But yeah, sorry, there is flour in that. Okay.
Okay.
Flour.
No, that makes sense.
1 cup of flour. Yep, my bad. Then till it's combined, and then you put it in the fridge.
Okay.
Then take it out. Yeah. So okay, but butter and cream cheese alone would make a fine base for anything. But throw some flour in there for a crust. And then then you whisk together. It went really quickly. And I feel like I see these cookies at like at my temple and stuff like for special occasions. So it was really yummy.
Yeah, they're like mini pecan pies, right?
Yeah.
I never knew tell me the name of it again.
Tassie, Tassie.
Okay.
Oh,
I just didn't know the proper name
Fantastic.
for those.
Yeah,
before, but they're awesome. And that sounds easy. So great.
It really was pretty simple, but sometimes instructions are intimidating.
Oh, no, for sure. I'm not saying that I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I've actually never done crust inside a mini muffin tin before. So yeah, I would be like, oh gosh, here we go.
Yeah. So it was really good. And I think I could put it on the rotation too.
And now that you've done it, are you less intimidated?
Yes, I totally am. And what's the worst thing that could happen if your dough is a little thin on one side? It's not going to ruin it, but that's where I get a little off put. Like, no, I have to do everything exactly the same. Impossible. If we don't have any other comments, I'll take us out to say thank you for watching Recipe Share. Be sure to click the link below to look at the event page on aadl.org to find the recipes we talked about. Join us next time when we'll be talking about some super bowls. We look forward to hear what you've been making, so thanks for sharing.
Recipe Share, share a little